seen our fair share of shit, and I mean, we're all seeing our fair share of it right now, and it's been an interesting experience this last year and a bit here of this stuff. I have concluded that everybody's insane, and I'm the reasonable one.
Right. That's a legit conclusion. Right. or the one I usually go with is everybody's insane, but my level of insanity is at least logical.
You understand your insanity, right? And right. You understand it, right? So that's the thing. Right? Whereas a guy like me, like I said, we are going to look back at this time with a lot of regret. That I'm almost certain of, because just of how we've treated each other in this time. That all said, it always builds character when you go through hard times, and you learn all kinds of wonderful things about yourself. So how about you? I think that's a great first question. We're not going to talk about like the disease or the therapy or all that other wonderful thing. I do that enough sometimes on the show. I try to minimize that. But what have you learned?
I've learned that I am far more a creature of habit than I thought. Like, there are certain things that I do not want to compromise on, that I don't want to be up in the air, that I don't want to be chaotic. But at the same time, I've also learned that the things that I thought I needed to be stable, nope. No, I really don't want them.
That's actually an incredibly tiny list. That is actually a ridiculously tiny list. Yeah. I learned that a long time ago.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the thing is, I always thought that I would be happiest as long as I stayed in the state of my birth. Like, I really liked where I was born. Like, the state where I was born, I really liked it. I figured as long as I was in that kind of area that, I would always feel comfortable. And now I'm like, so what if we move to Alaska? Can we move to Alaska? What if we, instead of renting an apartment, what if we buy an RV and just travel the U.S.?
See,
could we do that?
I'm actually going to make that happen. I've actually come to I've come to the conclusion that we have a housing problem right now in Canada, and it occurred to me that as a culture, we're idiots when it comes to housing. Because, right, if you have kids in the family, house makes sense. That's it. That is the only time that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. For the rest of it, the question is, if you're not happy with your situation, your place, and your time, why are you going for the house? Right? You're not going to... And with the way things are going, no one's going to be able to afford them in about another couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
So why is...
Well, that's something that my husband has always wanted to own a house. And we've actually owned a house before. And I'm like, never again. Never, ever again. And he's like, well, but it's so cheap to buy them here. And I'm like, I don't care. You are talking about a 30 goddamn year loan by the time we get done paying that.
Yeah, no,
we're going to be dead. Okay, that is the rest of our life right there. Is that what we really want to do? No, I want to travel the world. I want to literally have nothing to worry about except where we're going to stop the next night. That is what I want to do. I want to see things.
No, I totally get it. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, again, from my perspective, I don't have a family, right, to settle down and have. So I'm like, why am I here? And I'm doing what I pretty much want to do anyway. I'm doing this, right? Turning this into something financially equitable. I'm this close. I'm so close to being an affiliate on Twitch. Like I'm literally at like a watching list right now. And then once I hit it, I'm there. Like, I start making money on Twitch, and then I've been slowly expanding the podcast and scaling it up. And like, I know down the way it's probably going to pay for itself and everything else along with it. So I'm not really worried about it's the journey to get there right now for me more than anything else, right? And
yeah, well, and okay, so interesting thing, because I also want to travel Europe. So I've been looking at Europe, except my husband's an electrician. And as an electrician in the US, transferring that over to Europe, there's a few little sticky spots. But essentially, as long as he can get that first job and prove his qualifications, then he's good, right? So that's the sticking point. And I was like, well, okay, so once you do that, you're essentially a trade electrician. You can go pretty much anywhere because a lot of Europe focuses more on IT.
Yeah.
So we could do that. And the other thing is, if you like Google like the best places for U.S. citizens to immigrate to Europe and stuff, it's all like, well, this is a great place for digital nomads. And I'm like, wait a second. I would be a digital nomad.
Yes, you would be.
That would be me. Like,
yes, it would be.
It took me a few minutes to get that, where I was like, wait a second. All I need is a Wi-Fi to do my job.
Yes.
So,
that's it, right? Like we are in a very interesting place in that this has forced everybody to kind of reevaluate what's important. And I've known this for a very long time. There's very little in this life that truly matters. Are you happy doing what you love? Are you with people you love? There's very little else. Like so depressingly little else. Right? That really matters.
And the thing is, I'm not like anti-materialism, because I'm like, I'm very much of, you should have the material stuff that makes you comfortable. And quite frankly, that's not going to be too much. I mean, you're only one person, right?
Well, no, but I mean that's an honest assessment. Like, I mean, look, I am more of a minimalist because of what I've been through personally. It kind of forced me to look at things. Again, when it's just you learn very quickly what matters and what doesn't. And don't get me wrong, I like comic books. It's like one of those like little personal touches in the world, right? I need a computer to work. I got drawing stuff, notebooks for writing. Call me old-fashioned, but I like toilet paper and hot water. I like those things. That you see, you laugh, but you know it's
okay, so I live in an apartment, right? And I hate publicing, so I don't want to go out in people. And so, of course, being in an apartment, usually you have like either a shared laundry or you have to go to the local laundromat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both of those things are really bad choices in this area, because the shared laundromat is a washer and dryer that has not been functional, because apparently having a functional washer dryer in the complex is a COVID risk. I'm very confused by that.
That sounds incredibly cheap. Actually, that sounds like what that sounds like to me is your building has said, "Hey, we can save money on this right now. Right? We have an excuse, so let's do it."
Yeah.
I mean, we care about public health concerns. Yeah, that's it. I mean, still gotta pay rent, right? So I mean, yeah,
So we've been literally. I won't go to the laundromat. I'll go to the 24-hour laundromat at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Fully masked, and it's like there's 3 other people here, and I'm like, yes, okay. And there gets to be like 12, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? But so so I live in the US. In the US, we like to have a full-sized washer and a full-sized dryer. But I, being a major lover of all things European and British, have learned of this wonderful device where the washer and dryer are in the same machine. Yeah. And it fits under a counter. And I was like, can I get one? Well, it turns out for the longest time, no, you couldn't. You could not get one in the US. But they've gotten more popular. So I have one. So now I have a washer dryer combo in my kitchen. Don't ask.
And this is the other thing. Like we talked about this earlier, a little bit off the air. We're both old, and you know how you can tell you're old? It's what excites you, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's what excites you. Like it's all about what excites you. Like, for example, right? I mentioned hot water and toilet paper. These are not very exciting things in the grand scheme of things. However, right?
They are not exciting until you've gone a week without hot water.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you don't have the things you take for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Cleaning pads. I used to not be excited about cleaning pads. Now I'm excited, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me?
When you find the ones that have just the right amount of scrubbiness,
yeah,
because you don't want them too scrubby, or they'll just destroy whatever they're trying to clean.
Yeah.
So you got to have that perfect balance of getting the grit off and not like stripping the finish off your tiny room table.
See, again, signs you're getting old. Like, these are the signs, folks. It's not the signs you're getting old are not your physical appearance. The signs that have always been, right? I'm excited about a freaking washcloth. What has my life come to? That's it. That's it. That's what it comes down to.
You know, I've never gotten excited about a washcloth, but when they started making those ginormous bath blankets.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, it's like again. Now, there is a balance for me. This there's a balance. See, if I only get excited about that stuff, I am officially old and ready to go to the grave. I get excited about comic books, I get excited about books. But you appreciate, there are things in this life you appreciate more as you get older, and that's one of those things. You just appreciate it because you recognize, again, and this seems to be the theme of this conversation, very little actually matters. And that seems to be where it is.
I think a big part of it is as you get older, your knowledge base expands to encompass more of the world. And as that happens, you begin to put things into more and more perspective. And so the things that are important, like I still care about the environment, but you know, I'm also like really, really excited about a good pizza place. Like really excited.
Well, yeah.
So things kind of narrow down as to what is really going to get my blood boiling and
absolutely.
Because you know, I am totally Gen X, the forgotten generation. Just look at any graphics that compare generations, and 90% of them don't include Gen X. Just saying, bite me. We still exist. But, you know, we grew up knowing that the environment needed to be fixed. We grew up thinking we were going to be able to do that. And we grew up getting smacked in the face with all of those attempts. So, you know, people are like, oh, climate change. And we're like,
yep.
You know, I've already gotten excited about it and I can't anymore.
Well, no, it's also see, and this is something you also have a tendency you start realizing as you get older too. You notice that when certain we essentially like I figured this out a long time ago. Our problems exist because essentially it's been the same people making the same decisions for decades, right? That's the thing. So the fact that all these like even COVID, as much as people go, this is unprecedented. The lockdown concept's unprecedented. These problems have existed multiple times during the last 50 years. That's the truth. And the reason
people have trouble getting tested because we don't have the healthcare infrastructure to support even people who don't have $1 billion. Well, color me surprised as a U.S. citizen of a lower income bracket.
Yeah, well, you know, it's yeah. That's one thing. I mean, the fact that I mean, we have the vaccine issues. Swine flu had similar issues, like back in the
Yeah.
70s. I mean, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
And if you look at who was in charge then and who was in charge now, it's the
Yeah,
same
they
people,
were.
guys.
Yeah,
And until
because
and until honestly, this is the truth. This is the biggest truth of our time and every generation going forward. Our parents did not know how to confront the people in power, so we have not been taught how to do that either. But the truth of the matter is that the people in power need to be confronted sooner or later. If we really want to change the world, it starts and ends there. Until those voices change, nothing will change. That's the truth. That's the
yeah.
hard truth of the world. And the fact of the matter is, like, we are one of the last places that can, in theory, change the world, because the wealth is in the United States. People can still make decisions together as a collective to change things. The reality, no. Hey, this is why this has been working so hard to play divide and conquer for the last 20 years. Because again,
Well, no, my grimace is the concept that the wealth is in the United States. Because I mean, the thing is, on average, yes, it is. But when you look at the wealth disparities,
no. So can I elaborate just slightly?
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me elaborate just slightly. If you were to compare, even now, okay, if you look and compare United States, Canada, compared to the rest of the world in terms of what we have in terms of access to power, even the poorest of the poor, what access is there. United States is a much lower extreme. When you guys are like, the poorest of you are as poor as the third world, if not poorer, which is truly a devastating truth. But the average accessibility, the fact that most of us do have access to a light bulb, right? That and stuff. You look at it. If you look at that historically, that's virtually unprecedented. And the fact that there was such an abundance for such a very, very long time. Now, that doesn't mean like wealth disparity isn't a huge issue. It really is, but it has been going again. It has been going that way since the 80s, and it has been
before that,
or even before that, probably. Yeah, but I mean, it has been going that way for a very, 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 very long time. And what I've concluded, and then when I'm watching everything that's happened in the last year, everything, all of it has happened before. A bunch of it in my lifetime. So as you get older, you realize that these problems, like, so the question I ask myself is, are we really going to confront any of the real issues? If the answer is no, then why get bent out of shape? It's not going to get fixed. And that may sound like incredibly callous to anyone listening to this.
Well,
but it's not.
I mean, it's like the spoons and forks theory. Have you heard of you've heard of the spoons theory?
No, I haven't.
So, okay, so it's a theory that goes along with like chronic diseases, but I love to use it for everything because I think everybody has spoons and forks. Okay, so spoons. Everybody wakes up in the morning with a certain number of spoons, and say it takes 1 spoon to take a shower. If you only have 5 spoons, that's literally a fifth of your day right there. That's all you can do. So you have to be careful of what spoons you use. If you don't have chronic illnesses, then you have many, many more spoons to work with, and you can generally do more. Now, the concept of forks has to do with non-neurotypicalness and being able to focus. A toothache is a fork. You got a fork in you. Having to go to the bathroom is a fork. Having to deal with your mother being upset on the phone is a fork. There are only so many forks you can put in yourself before you are done, right? So you got a limited number of spoons to deal with stuff and a limited number of forks that you can handle. And you have to take care of one fork before you can add another, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Well, the problem that we have here is, like when it comes to some of the larger issues, the older generations, like you and I, not the oldest, but the older, the just slightly over middle-aged generations, we're sitting here going, dude, we've been poked by that fork so many times. I am not taking that fork no more. We're not getting forked. So it's just that when we see the same thing over and over and over again with the same result, you got to prove to us that we're going to get a different result if we're going to put forth that kind of effort.
Well, that's exactly it. Like that's that. Like I will and even just as a professional in my writing career, right? I refuse. I like one of the things I did freelancing for a year, and I'm still doing freelancing, although it's not the focus right now. In the terms of it's no longer quite my primary focus. Now I'm trying to transition into where I need to go next, and keep doing the things I really need to do as well. Hence why we're having this wonderful conversation today, because this is an important one. This is an important thing worth doing. But the thing is, I recognize like my effort has to give me something I feel is worth having. If it does not, I just will walk away, because I just know that I can already tell it's going to create a certain result just based on watching your actions. I've become a student of studying people, more specifically not just what they say, but what they do and don't do, because there's an art form, and this is true in storytelling as well. There's an art form in what people say and what people do and what they're really saying each and every time. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to listen to the. I had an argument with my dad last week, and the argument basically boiled down to he's going to the crutch of I don't have time. Truth of the matter is, that's an excuse no matter how busy you are. That's the truth, right? Now, but if you say it like that, you can actually kind of stroke your ego a little bit. I'm really busy. I got things I need to do. I just don't have time. That sounds great. Truth. This is the truth. When you say that, what you're actually saying is, I have something else that takes priority, right, over what you're doing. Again, in of that and of itself, that is not a crime, right? But you have to be honest with yourself, because when you say I don't have time, what you're actually saying is I have something that takes precedence. That's fine. Mm-hmm.
It would be more accurate to say I don't have time for something of that level of priority.
Yeah, that's an accurate. Yeah, but at least right now, right? At least right now, right?
Yeah.
Now, I gave him crap because that's not something you can just duck. But that's right. But the thing about it was, right? It's an excuse. Mm-hmm. What you're saying and what you're not saying. It's all about what you're saying versus what you're not saying. And and you listen, and you can listen to that, right? And also the other way, the way I said it, it kills the ego completely. There's no ego in it. It's a decision you're making. And that's fine. Like, whatever decision you choose to make is your decision to make. But you kill the ego. But you say I don't have time. There's a little and I speak from experience. I've used this to speak for myself. There's a little ego in that. There's just a little bit. If I just say it the other way, it's not my priority. Well, I got to be a little bit more honest with myself, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Because now it's like, okay, it's not a priority. I've made this decision, but now this is a decision. Is this the right decision I'm making now? There's a little bit more accountability that way. Now you can still make the same decision, right? You can still make the same exact decision. Like I said, ultimately, there's not necessarily an incorrect way of doing it, right? Like, it's not incorrect to say that something else takes a priority over something else, whatever I may think. But
and I think there's a certain amount of people like to fool themselves into thinking that they don't have a choice in the matter, because then they don't have to be held accountable for making those choices. And a lot of that, I'm going to be honest, what I've seen in people, a lot of people are surrounded by people who are toxic to them and would in fact make their lives miserable because they are taking the responsibility of making those choices. That is not necessarily fair, but it's also not necessarily healthy to abdicate any responsibility to avoid that toxicity rather than confront the toxic people and get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, no, that's just it, right? But I mean, again, that requires work. See, we're getting rid of all. We're getting rid of. We're getting rid. Again, I'm deglamorizing it. Like that's basically what I did there. Again, it's all what is said, and also what is not said, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, we all have that language on some level or another, right? And if you're really smart, you can sometimes read between the lines, and that can be very beneficial to you sometimes. Sometimes, though, you're like, oh, that's what you're really saying. Okay. Yeah. And as a freelancer, now going back to like your professional thing, right? It and something as we get into the habit as people to chase things because we want certain things to go a certain way. I mean, we really feel like it should be the right way and the good way and all that stuff. And this is the benefit of growing old, is you realize that no, that's not actually how this works. How this actually works is, no matter what the situation is, no matter what, people are going to do what they want to do, or they're going to find a way to do it. Period.
Well, I mean, some hard truths is, even if you work your butt off for your entire life, that does not mean you deserve success.
Oh, it's true. Actually,
I mean, it sucks, but no. But the thing is, like, we do have, like, there's been some studies in psychology that have shown that humans actually require a certain, like, stability in this just world theory, where if you do the right things, then you'll get the right things and things like that. That is where we get our emotional stability from, is this illusion. So, it's kind of a evil to have a certain belief in that. But I mean, the truth is, there's no great cosmic being out there, making sure that all of the boxes are ticked and everybody gets exactly what they've earned, et cetera, et cetera. Just. That doesn't negate a great cosmic being. It just means that they're not involved in this.
I will just simply say, from my own personal experience, I have gotten some occasional smackdowns from the Almighty. It's like, it's like one of those things where it's just like, you did this, and then you're like, yes, I did. Yes. Right, and I have learned. I learned very, 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 very. See, sometimes no. See, we're gonna unpack this a little bit. So one of my favorite TED Talks of all time is called "Why You Will Fail to Have a Great Career," and it's actually one of the most passionate things I watch it usually once a year. It's so good that one of the things I love, my favorite, there's a couple of things he says in there that really I always love. He goes, one of my favorites is this: here's the secret, kids. In this life, if you want to work really, 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 really hard, right? You will work really, 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 really hard. Life will let you do that. Right, and the point he was making is, it's not about how hard you work. You need a work ethic. And this cannot be overstated enough. You need one. You need the discipline to get up every day and say, I'm doing something to move myself forward on some level, and then you just let things happen. You let things go. You let things do. Like, for example, I am 2,500 words approximately away from finishing a novel. I'm literally at the end. I've written everything else. I'm literally at the end. Yeah, it's going. Hey, listen, this was important too. We had to get this one done first.
Now we're going back to the priorities discussion.
Oh yeah, no, this is a priority decision. This is what I do, right? And most people know me as a podcaster over a writer. That doesn't mean I can't write well. I got some things I gotta be very nice about for a little while. But I one of the things, one of my personal bucket list goals happened last week, and I'm not even, I get it, but like it was one of those things where I just wanted to happen this year, and it happened. So great. It was gratifying for me to get that. I can't say it on the air, but it's gratifying. That all said, like, I know this, like, this is what people know me for, but also I like doing it. Like, this is, again, from a priority standpoint, it's like, this is the discipline. This is the discipline part of what I do each and every day. I have to do something in this regard each and every day, unless my grandmother kidnapped me yesterday. So we had a little talk about some things, and it's like, okay, you know what? For today, and it's okay to take a day off. It takes confidence to take a day off, right?
I mean, the thing is, sometimes to move yourself forward, you need to take a day of self-care.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did. So now I'm here and I'm back and I'm doing everything I was supposed to do and getting my priorities moving and rolling and all that stuff. And it's been great. But yeah, again, I made those decisions. I don't bullshit myself. Like I passed that. I don't have time for this anymore. I don't. No. It's like
I don't have time for my own shit.
No. I'm past all of that. This is what I go. I make decisions. What's important to me? This. I know what path I want to go. So what are my priorities? This. There's some other things I want to do. They'll come when they come. But that's, again, the novel's important. Yes, it is. It's very, very important. But it's important enough that when I'm done doing my podcast stuff, I take a break. Later on tonight, I finish the bad boy, hand it into my betas. Hopefully they don't beat on me too hard. Please don't beat on me. But I mean, that's it. But going back to what I said about the career thing, right? Why you feel to have a great career. Life is inherently unfair. But that's actually a wonderful thing. Look, that means that tomorrow you can release a book. And tomorrow it'll hit the right place at the right time with somebody, and it'll spread like wildfire. And you will go to sleep the next night, and you'll be like, I'm just doing my thing. And then you're going to wake up, and then everybody knows your name. Oh my God, it's Sarah Burhman. She's wrote this amazing book. And you'll be like, what in the hell just happened here? And then you're like, you'll pinch yourself going, am I dreaming? Ow. No, I'm not dreaming. This is real. Well, shit. And it can happen like that. Flip side, I mean, tomorrow you could wake up, and I don't wish this on you. I'm just saying this could go really, like, you could wake up and your house could magically disappear, and you could literally be in a dimensional limbo somewhere going, what in the hell did I do to get here? I think you'd be okay with that. I'd be like, hey, I do have a camera? Cool. But I mean, but you get the idea. Like, life.
Be like, dang it, which dimension am I in this time?
Exactly. Again? Jesus. Again? Right? How? But my point being is life's inherently unfair. Mm-hmm. And they're not in control of really an awful lot of it. You're really not. So you can be mad about this, I guess, and try to create this magical world. And the world will let you to some degree. At the same time, though, just straight up, that unfairness gives you an opportunity that every day is a possibility for change, for the good or the bad. And it's because it's unfair.
The thing is, what people don't necessarily understand is that the greatest skill that human beings have mentally is the ability to roll with whatever happens, to have enough confidence in one's own abilities to handle anything, that we don't have to try to control everything. That is the greatest skill that the human being can have. And unfortunately, we tend to idealize being a controlling person. We tend to focus on things that do control things. We tend to even create systems that kind of require you controlling everything. So, we're really bad at accepting that, but it really is our greatest skill.
Well, but when you can accept it, it's actually relatively easy. Very little actually bothers you anymore. And it's actually, and when you get to that point, because you're like, again, maybe I'm just crazy. I'm going to acknowledge something. I am maybe entirely off my rocker. It's totally a possibility.
Maybe.
But I just look at it, it's like, okay, the world's on fire today. Okay, how can I make money in this? It sounds like a really strange.
How about yours? That's the way I like it. 'Cause I never get. See, that's when you use that line from that song as the subject line for your newsletter that's going out later that day.
See, yeah, you see, I see the marketer, the genius marketer and stuff like that. Yeah. Or something. I don't know. I just like, but again, I've learned this. Like, I have been in really, really low points, and when you learn, what you learn is that sometimes all you really just have to do is get through the day, right? Yeah, that's it. Sometimes that's all you really have to do. The rest will take care of itself.
Okay, so I've had a couple of really bad years from a psycho-emotional standpoint. And I'm not going to get into the details, but there are a few things that I've learned about it. And one of the things that I have come to a conclusion about, which I have, I guess you could say, joyously put into my novels, is when you are talking about psychological and emotional stress. Like, okay, so if you're talking about physical torture, there's a limit. Like, at a certain point, your body will give up and you will die. There's no limit of that with psychological and emotional stress. You either break or you don't. And even if you break, you can still be broken more. So there's no limit to how much you can be hurt that way. It's whether you can recover that becomes the issue at that point. So, yes, I went to some very dark places, but that idea that I think that that's something that is very important to include in a lot of stories, because we've spent centuries talking about avoiding being broken, avoiding being beaten, avoiding being destroyed, and then around the 90s, I think it was, we really embraced the concept of like anti-heroes and people who just get completely destroyed. And now we are kind of arching, not really back, but arching forward into this whole, okay, so now we have these destroyed people. How do they get back to some level of functional? We're really exploring the kind of psycho-emotional recoveries within hero stories, and I love that.
So I will say this. I do think there's even a psychological level, there is a point of death there too, right? I do think there is. It doesn't manifest the same exact way. It doesn't manifest the same exact way, but it does. I've seen it where people just get to a point where they just want it over. And funnily enough, like, our mind's a powerful thing. We want something bad enough, it happens. It really works that way.
See, the thing is, I kind of came to this from the perspective of, people always saying, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I'm like, does it though? Does it? Like, isn't there a certain point where it doesn't anymore?
Well, it does if you can get back up.
Exactly. Right? And that's the thing, is people think that as long as you're still breathing, you can get back up. And that's not, like, yes, you should. You should try. You should, all of this other thing. But taking it to the most extreme levels, there's, these are also the same people who aren't going to help you get back up. So, there's that too.
Well, it comes to this. Okay, this is so one of my favorite lines from Rocky Balboa. It's actually a surprisingly good movie, but one of my favorite parts is the when he's talking to his son, right? Nobody hits harder than life. Life will hit you. I don't care how big and tough you are. You will go down, and you'll leave you to your knees, and will keep you there if you let it. The key word in that is if you let it. Here's the thing. You're in enough pain. It's like you said, we're gonna go back to the forks and spoons thing. If there's enough forks in you, all you can focus on is the forks. Right? Now, inevitably, life's gonna put you in this position though, regardless of how many forks or spoons you have. Life is gonna go like this. Okay. You've had your ass kicked for a while. You need to move. Now it's up to you which way you'll go on this. Now, there's no judgment either way. So one of the things I've learned in this life is I kind of met like the shadow of death once upon a time, and one of the things that really, really surprised me was how little judgment there wasn't going forth or back. Right? There was just like, if I had decided in that moment I wanted to end it, what happened? There was no reclamation, at least not in the way people believe it to be, right? Life's the same way. It's not that it doesn't care. There's actually a surprising amount of compassion with either choice you choose to make. But I think in general, life basically is about us making decisions, choosing our priorities. Going back to that, so choosing our priorities, no matter what the situation is, no matter how beaten down, how many forks or spoons you have, and what life cares about is what you do in those moments and why. That's it. Right? That's it. If you fail, there's no real punishment in this. That's not what this is about.
Well, there's not even really failure. It's just you're essentially creating who you will become, and who you become. You're never wrong in creating who you become. It's just, is that more closer to the person you wanted to become? That's really the only judgment there. Is it closer to the person you wanted to be, or is it not? Like, but yeah, like you don't get judged over being who you are and the choices that you've made from a perspective of not other people, because other people judge in a heartbeat. Let's be honest about that. But life itself, the way I like to remember it is, life isn't just about human peoples. Life is also about fleas and dogs and amoebas and those whatever is in the ice in Mars, and whatever might be floating around in Andromeda, and some weird tardigrade creature in a galaxy like 3 kajillion light years away. That all of life is about all of that. And we are just as important and just as unimportant as every other life form in that perspective. It's not that we're not important, because, all life is important. But at the same time, there's this constant balance that requires life to end, life to progress, life to change, life to evolve, life to, do all of these things. And we are a part of that. We have very limited choices to what manner we get to participate in that. But those choices are important because those are our choices.
Well, it's more. I actually would say that, to simplify what you're saying, life is change. Period. There's no such thing as a perfect world. There will never be a perfect world. In fact, if we ever do somehow stumble our way into a perfect world, well, it's over. There's nothing left to do. And it sounds fatalistic.
Well, no, but okay, so in the Matrix, they even talk about that. They created the perfect world and humans rejected it because we can't do anything with perfection.
Well, it's not that
we need something to fight against. We need something to struggle for. We need something to do.
It's not. No, it's even simpler than that. It's even simpler than that. It's because I've used this parable in a few other of my shows. I'll give you the same parable. Have you ever looked at iodized salt and sea salt in a microscope?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. No.
Iodized salt looks perfect. It's perfect. Perfect shapes, perfect sizes, perfect this, perfect that. Sea salt, on the other hand, is imperfect. Lots of little black flecks, different shapes, different sizes, all these wonderful things. Now, here's the thing, right? Salt is bad for you. Kind of. You need salt. The salt that works better for us is sea salt. Why? The imperfections. We're not built to. We are built with what perfection is. What a way to just look at perfection is. Perfection is a world without change. Right?
Well,
Illness.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that we were essentially evolved, created, whatever you want to, whatever your belief system is, whatever. We were made to literally deal with an imperfect world. That is what we are made to. We have filtration systems. We have, organs that take care of toxicities. If we don't have any of that, then we start to have parts of us atrophy. And that is not good. We need to deal. It's like the hygiene hypothesis. If we do not encounter diseases, then we cannot face diseases because we need to constantly be practicing. We need to constantly. It's like okay. There's what is it? The exercise where you're pushing against something.
Yeah.
As opposed to, yeah, we need something to push against. We need pressure. We're like deep sea fish. If we don't have that pressure, we're going to explode. We need a certain amount of pressure.
Yeah, well, that's everything. You talk about the amoeba. The amoeba has no pressure. It just doesn't change. It doesn't just stays exactly where it is. Life is change, and change is always requires. And this is the thing. And this is why, this is why the Buddhist teaching pain is life is such a sound. It sounds terrible until you realize what pain is. What they're actually saying is pain is pressure. Life is always pressure to move forward on something. Mm-hmm. And having
discomfort is why we make changes.
Yeah,
discomfort is why we grow.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. Like I have 8 rules of success, and the 8th rule is stay uncomfortable. So that's my 8th rule. Deliberate choices it's why I'm making some of the changes I'm making, like going to my priorities, is because I realize that it would be very easy for me to stay comfortable where I'm at if I chose to. And I promised myself 1 year. I gave myself that 1 year. Now it might be just struggle to change that momentum again, which is totally fine. But the fact is, I'm changing the momentum. The fact is, I'm moving forward, and inevitably, I'll get to where I want to go.
And the thing is, people really don't do well in perfection. People don't do well when everything is handed to them. This is something that I really have a problem with certain, political concepts. Is if you hand people everything they need, they will essentially do nothing. Well, they won't do nothing. It may not be what you want them to do, but they won't do nothing. Because people hate to be useless. People really do. People want to do things, whether it's, taking their kids to the park or, working on that art project that they've been, carrying around in their brain for eons, whether it's, sitting down and writing the great American novel. Yeah. People want to do things. People want to do things. And the fact that we have situations where, we essentially have decided what is valuable and what is not in people's effort, I think is a real shame. That inhibits a lot of people.
It's interesting. A friend of mine was wondering about why a person would choose to remain homeless, right? Like how do you help somebody that wants to stay that way? And then I asked them, well, why do they want to be in this position? Do you understand it? And they're like, and they explained it. It's like, well, here's the thing. Right, and I've learned this with people is people want to be where they want to be, it sounds to me like your friend is going through a growth phase. It's something they need to see and do, and they need to do it. So you can't really help them get them out of this situation. They need to be in the situation to get whatever it is they're going for. So love them anyway. Offer to help if they need it. That's always a great thing to do, and always a great thing to love and respect. Right? But that's it. Like, you've got to let people be themselves.
Yeah.
And you know,
never underestimate the power of people thinking that they deserve to be in a position that they're in.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean,
absolutely. No. It's one of the biggest levers we have. One is like guilt and fear. I find it ironic, but like I said, again, when you look at guilt and fear as levers, as tools, again, I'm an older guy now. I've seen some of these patterns before. So when I watch them being used, I'm like, oh, I've been here before, right? I know what this is. I know where this is leading, and I can even tell you where this is.
People get really pissy when you call them on that too.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do this to me, and they're like, eh.
Well, no. It's funny because it's sometimes I don't even realize it. Like, that's the honest truth. Is sometimes I just don't. You recognize the fact too that, like, we all have our own habits. Hey, listen, I know this is going to come as a surprise to you, Sarah, but my shit stinks. I know it's a huge surprise, big giant. I know. Deep breath. I was shocked too. I was very, very shocked to discover this. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, the truth of the matter is, because we are so close to ourselves, we get used to it. Somebody else from the outside can look at it and go, you're full of crap here. And you're like, how dare you? I've been doing it this way for 20 years. I can't possibly be wrong. I'm always right, or some bullshit like that. And we all are guilty of this.
Yeah.
A little bit. So it's one of those things where, and saying what I'm saying here right now, and knowing that this is the truth, doesn't mean I aren't full of shit on some things myself. Well, I know that. Yeah.
Even knowing that doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to roll over when somebody accuses you of something either. Like, that's one thing I've always found weird. It's like, yes, I know that I'm a flawed person, and they're like, these are what your flaws are, and I'm like, you need to prove it. And they're like, but you said you were flawed. I'm like, yes, but that doesn't mean you're right. Like, we still have that emotional need to defend and explain ourselves. You can't change that.
It's also, I mean, in all fairness, like, on the flip side of that too, hey, someone can call me an asshole. They're probably right, at least a little bit. But at the same token, though, it's like, okay, well, why am I an asshole? You do this, and this, and this comes down to, so I have, like, I call these the 3 eyes of communication, and 2 of them can't be argued with. The third one is where we always have our issues. There is intentions.
Mm-hmm.
There is no argument with intentions. There's no way to prove one way or the other that the intentions are good or bad. Impact cannot be denied either. Exactly. Whatever you say, whatever actions you take creates an impact. Period. And then there's interpretation, which is the one area where we can debate this. So when we're accusing somebody of something, like, again, I used to be arguing with my dad. Okay, I think he was making an excuse. And his interpretation might be, well, I really am busy. I got all these things on my plate right now, and I have to deal with these things. And there's validity to that. I'm not saying there isn't. We're going. Hold on, let me see. Let me just how to put this. I just saw something that would wreck my train of thought there. Right. I got distracted. Bunnies, wee. Anyways, no. But the way I put this is, that doesn't mean that I might think it's one way, but they might have a valid reason for doing what they're doing, and it's valid. Like, it's not like it's like, if I could, you are flawed. You have an ego. Like, yes, I do. And you're egotistical in this way. Well, maybe. Why are you this way? Most of us will look at something and look at what someone does and go, okay, why? We very rarely ask, why are they doing it this way? We don't actually do that very often. We just say, this guy's a bastard, or this person is this, or this person is that. But we don't. Again, this is where the interpretation part of it comes in.
I have a psychological dysfunction where I have to try and figure out what people's motives are.
Oh, okay.
Like, that is my crazy.
Okay, that's your crazy. So, can I play for crazy a little bit?
Sure.
Why do you think I wanted you on this show?
'Cause I'm funny. Well, okay, so, I mean, the thing is, you're looking for people who are interviewable, and I have actually made myself incredibly interviewable by being, a little bit kooky and relatively pleasant and easy to talk to. So I'm a pretty good interviewee. So, of course people want me on their show, and we got along relatively well without actually agreeing on everything, and you like just a scotch of conflict.
That's two. Yeah, okay. Yes, I do like a scotch of conflict.
You didn't tell me how many I had to figure out. Come on.
No.
I two.
But because it's not the big one. It's not the big one.
It's not the big one.
You're right. I'm not.
Is it the lipstick?
2.5. We'll give you 2.5. Hey, listen. I'll give it to you. No. Yeah. No. I do enjoy it a slightly different. Like, again, I do like the views to be somewhat like me, but not so like me. But there's an even bigger reason, right? And see why I like the conflict. Want to hear it?
Sure.
I can learn from you.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh. People who think that debates are all about fighting. It's like, no, it's about, I'm not fighting you. I'm explaining my perspective and you're explaining yours, and I'm rebutting, and we're essentially we're negotiating our shared vision of reality to try and find this middle ground. That is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And people are like, oh, you fight all the time. And I'm like, well, shooting, fighting all the time.
So now I don't know. I'm picturing you rolling up the paper and smacking people. I'll show you fighting. Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Or people who go, your voice raised like a few inches in volume, and I'm like, that's called passion. And they're like, but I feel attacked. Okay, I can't help you then. Like, I get it, but I can't help that. Like, if you want me to be passionate about something, that voice is going up.
Again, it's interpretation, right? Like, I mean, that's the one. Like, that's the negotiation part of it.
Yeah. Well, now the one thing that I have noticed in a lot of people, especially people who have had a lot of toxicity and abuse in their lives, not to put too fine a point on it, but that's what they've had. They tend to conflate intention and interpretation. Like, I intended this. Okay, but I don't know what you intended, and I'm telling you what the impact is. Well, but that means that we have to pick whether I was right or you were right. And it's like, well, no, that's also not how that works. You need to acknowledge the impact that I'm telling you, but now I know the intent that you had. We need to decide if your intention overshadows the impact, if it's a negative impact. Now that is where we're negotiating. Because, I mean, you can have all the best intention in the world, but if your impact is that somebody feels like they're constantly being slapped in the face with a fish, probably not going to be worth it. Like,
Yeah, I don't want to get slapped in the face with a fish. It's not cool.
Right? Like, it's not even really hurtful. It's just insulting at that point. It's like, if that's what you want to go for, if you want to insult me.
it's also, I mean, it's also knowing what, it's also like part of that is also knowing what you can't abide by too. Like personal conflicts with people is just, even professional ones. For example, right? If I'm being a consultant for something, I'm going to assume you're going to, you don't have to agree with everything I'm going to say, but I am going to assume you're going to listen to me enough to actually, give me materials to help me do my job, right?
Yeah.
Now, we might disagree with where we're going to go with this, and you are ultimately the boss because you're paying me to do it, but I'm going to do everything in my power to do it to do what I feel is the best job possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the position I'm going to come from on this. And if you aren't giving me the tools to do this, I'm going to walk away because I made a decision that I'm not doing extra work. I'm lazy, right? And it's just like, and I mean that in like the best way. It's like, if this is requiring me to go above and beyond what we agreed to, I'm walking. Right?
Yeah. I'm pretty generous. I'll give people a little leeway. Sure. You want me to do an extra 5 minutes work? Okay, fine, whatever. Blah. That might be worth it. But if it happens consistently, now you're abusing.
Well,
like, the first was just, oops, I miscalculated, or something came up, or anything. If you get that consistently, now you're trying to take advantage of me.
Well, now it's like red flag. Okay, mistake.
Yeah, call on the play.
It's like, it's like, and then at that point you're like, okay, no. Like, no.
Yeah.
And you have to walk, and again, it's sometimes in the interpretation, it's like, no, I'm not living with this. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And I made and again, it's one of those things I learned as what kind of friend I wanted to be, what kind of boss I wanted to be, what kind of person I wanted to be. There are just some things I'm not going to take from anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I've had probably the most problem with in my life is I have always been extremely generous to people, in the sense that even in high school, my entire concept was, if you need to interrupt me, then that is what you need, and I'm willing to give that to you. If you need to be angry at me, that is what you need, and I'm willing to give that to you. If you need to decide where we're going for lunch every single time, that is what you need, and I'm willing to give that to you. And then about my mid-30s, I went, no. I'm no longer willing to give this. This is now creating a situation where people are abusing, and that is not okay. And I cut a whole bunch of people out of my life and set boundaries for a whole bunch of other people, and shit literally hit the fan. Yeah. And I'm like, I have been nice and generous. I mean, like, I don't argue about things that I don't find, worthy of arguing. So when I do argue about stuff, I actually foolishly expect people to be like, oh, well, she has decided that this is important. Maybe we should take that as a level of importance for her. No, they don't do that.
Well, see, a former friend of mine, she was very, very mad at her brother for doing something to her.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't say anything for years and years.
Yeah.
And years. What you're also getting the pushback in that situation is, it's not just that, you've changed things around. You also have to teach everybody around you to unlearn behavior.
Yeah.
And the problem, in fairness to a bunch of them, not all of them, but a bunch of them, you were okay with this, and then one day you suddenly wasn't. Like,
I was actually keeping that in mind, and I told them that it was coming, and I told them that this was not fair. And I did give them a lot of leeway in terms of changing their behavior. It wasn't like, you can't do this anymore. I was like, look, I know we've had this discussion before, but this is one of those things that is not going to be allowed anymore. You need to reassess right now. And every single, like, I had one friend who accused me of stealing from him. Because I wasn't going to let him borrow money anymore. Go ahead and wrap your brain around that one. I actually had problems with my mother because she likes to be very controlling without being controlling. And when I said that, no, this is not going to happen anymore, she did not like that because, it ended up being a whole, well, I'm the grandma thing. Okay, yeah, but I'm the mom. So there you go. I Trump. Mama Trump's grandma.
And as far as that argument goes, I won't even touch that one on the 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Honest to God, there's no way I can win. And also the other thing too, I just saw it. I know the other reason. You do have a slightly terrifying side to you as well. I can just see it's like when you put your foot down, it's like it's down, and it ain't moving.
Yeah, and well, that was the other thing that came up is apparently I'm incredibly intimidating, and I'm like, really?
No.
And then people are like, even that's scary, and I'm like, really?
See, it's not. It's like this, and this one I just picked up with you. When you make a decision, whatever that decision actually is, you're determined. And that's when you, like, this gentle, wonderful human being has a little bit of a pit bull in her. And right? And that. Yeah.
I'm very generous to a point, and once you hit that point, it's there's a line that's been crossed.
But it's not even that. Like that tenacity has probably served you very well as a professional as well, because you need that tenacity in that line of work. But it's also terrifying to see that all of a sudden that, oh my God, she's about to attack and maul and eat me, and I may not recover from that. Right? It's there, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it.
I know it's there, but the thing is, because of the way I was raised and various other situations and a certain aspect of my own personality, I'm actually terrified of confrontation. So people are like, oh God, you're so scary. And I'm like, but I don't want to be, but you can't do this, but I don't want to be scary, but you can't do this, but I don't want to be scary, but you can't do this. Yeah, it's my internal monologue while I'm being terrifying is actually hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Don't ever like don't ever have that, like, there because here's the thing, right? You have to be. You recognize the very like see. I talk about the negative side of ego. There is a positive side to having ego, and it's this. Your ego's like, you're gonna fucking fight through this right now because you are worth it. And in that sense, an ego's a great thing, right?
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. Ego literally means your sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that, I will let a lot of people get away with a lot of things, but when you start walking over me with cleats, you're gonna get an earful, and the tongue is razor sharp. I will go for blood.
Yeah, no. And again, I saw that, and it's like, you might kill and eat me if I'll tread carefully. You're my friend. Bring chocolate. You're my friend.
You. I mean, that's what hog farms are for.
Well, no, but that's why. But I mean, we all have that. We all
right.
We all need that on some level. Like, look, I'm a nice guy. I know some. I've made fun of myself quite a little bit on this episode, and I know you've appreciated me, like me being very good, very, very sly in some ways, how I've done it too, right? But I've had to learn to say no, and I had learned that I can't back down from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
The world.
Well, I mean, it's the whole concept of good fences make good neighbors. This isn't because you need to have a barrier between, people that you like. It's because there needs to be a place that is you. And you need to protect that place from being taken over by other people, not because they're mean or cruel or just well, I mean, a lot of it is inconsiderate, but because people will naturally expand to fill the space they are given. If you do not have a solid boundary, they will try to expand into you more. You need to hold your line and be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and this is true in business. This is true in relationships. This is true in everything. And I mean, the other part too is it's not even like people need to respect you. That's the bottom line. You need to respect yourself, which is even more important than even people's respect. I get it, right? But if you're going to deal with people, they have to be able to respect you on a multitude of levels. Otherwise, nope. Right, that's it. And when and once that line is crossed, you got to walk away. That's just It sucks, but it's just the way it is.
Now, my big thing is, okay, I don't care if you agree with everything I say. That is negotiable. That's part of the whole back and forth of any kind of relationship, platonic or otherwise, is the negotiation of things. But I do insist that people listen to me. Like that is my big thing. If you're going to be somebody who is in my life in any way, shape, or form, you need to listen to me. I will listen to you, but you also need to listen to me. And that means that you listen to what I'm saying and you take that, and like, if I say that I like okay, so I don't like carbonated beverages because they hurt my throat and then they make me burp really painfully, like really painfully.
Okay.
So I don't like carbonated beverages. If I say that to somebody, and I've said it, 2 or 3 times, and they're a good friend, I expect them to at some point remember that. I really do. Like that's just like that's the thing. Like, I expect you to remember things about me, about my likes and dislikes. So if you, after 5 years of being friends, buy me a big old 12-pack of Coke, then I'm just gonna be like,
I hate you.
The hell? Do you even know me? Like, who do you think I am? Like, did you even think about this? Yeah, that to me, that is insulting. That is not listening to me. That is not, you don't have to agree with me not liking carbonated beverages, but you need to, listen to me and absorb what I'm saying as part of your overall knowledge base.
So I do want to ask to see. I can make what I call an old man drink carbonated beverage. I wanted to like. I know you like. It's different. It's a little different than what is not out there today. It's like I'd be interested to see if you about it. But no,
I like old fashioned. I like old fashioned carbonated because they're not nearly as heavily carbonated.
Oh, okay. So what you do is you take water, right? You take citric acid and baking soda, and you just put it together. And when it fizz, you drink. It does too miraculously.
That would help with indigestion.
Yes, it does. It does. It helps you. So that's one. Two. Now you can add a little more to it if you really want to. Now I'm not going to tell you to do that, but you're also halfway to a nerve tonic. You're halfway there, right? And three, right? So if you ever know anyone that has issues coping with stuff, you're half. Like I said, it's half the formula. Yeah. Number three, it's gentle. Like it's actually a very gentle carbonated drink. So it's just like so something like that. I'd be like, okay. So if I ever went to you and I ever met you somewhere and we did some kind of like weird alchemical stuff, because somehow I get the feeling you'd be into that. Right? You'd be into that. This would come up. I'd be like, try this. You'd be like, because that's what I grew up with. It's, try this. It'll do good. It's like, It made me the man I am today. Anyways.
I don't trust that phrase. Okay, I do not trust that phrase at all.
It's like, dude, maybe that man. I have fun stories. In all seriousness, right? That's why, I get it though, what you're saying, in the sense that we all have boundaries. We all have things. Now, would I buy you a Coke on April Fool's Day? Maybe as a joke once. I think you'd be okay with that. Maybe, right? But
okay, as long as that's the extent of pranks, because I actually hate April Fools.
Okay, no,
I really see.
Really?
I've had a lot of people do a lot of really cruel pranks.
No.
So me and my sister-in-law were pregnant the same year, right?
Okay.
We actually ended up having our kids less than a month apart.
Oh, that's cool.
No, it wasn't. It was a nightmare from the beginning, because my brother actually accused me of getting pregnant to take away from his special moment, which I immediately went, wow, I have godlike powers then, cool. And that did not go well with the family.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, yeah. I mean that. I am legitimately sorry.
It was an interesting time. But that year during April Fool's, my sister-in-law called my mother and told her she had a miscarriage. That was her prank. I was like, I will never forgive you for that. I mean, she didn't even do it to me, and I was like, no, that is the line that you will. Nope, that is not a line you cross. That is not a line you cross at all.
I just learned something about you.
Yeah.
No. I actually learned something about you. Oh, I actually now I want to give you a hug. Not just for the. You're a very gentle person. I just actually really picked up on something with you on that. There's a very gentle person inside you.
Yes. A lot of people would describe it as a mama bear. You hurt children, and I will destroy your life.
Yeah. Like I've seen wrath of mama bear in your eyes a couple times on this conversation. So I know that's
on the other hand, if you're my child and you don't do your chores, I will also destroy your life. So there you go.
But that's just doing your job. See, that's just doing your job because
I'm not here to be your friend.
That's mama bear being a tyrant. It's in the job description, right?
Yeah. But see, to me, emotional pain is actually just as bad as physical pain. You do not get to stab somebody on April Fool's Day because that is a dick thing to do. And you do not make people think that their loved ones are in a car accident or somebody's died or anything like that. No. Because for that whole, 2-3 minutes that you let that go on before you break it that it's an April Fool's prank, that person's life is just freaking ended. You don't get to do that to people. Okay, so I know that life is cruel, but we don't have to be.
No, we don't have to be. We'll go down this path. We'll kind of see where it goes, and then we'll talk about your Twitch channel because it's awesome. I think the most interesting thing is that, I know you have your own definition of what is and isn't cruel, and you have your own definition of why, but everybody's got their own quirks. And I have seen senses of humor where are just incredibly, I look at it, it's like, that's incredibly wicked shit. But the person on the other receiving end is laughing. So, I mean, I look at that and I go...
Interestingly, there's a psychological reason for that. When you put somebody under an extreme amount of emotional stress and then you relieve that, people interpret that as humor. That will make people laugh because of the relief of, if somebody told you that, a significant other was dead and then, oops, April Fool's Day, the relief of that not being real is enough to make you laugh. So it's not necessarily that it's actually funny.
I gotcha. No.
Yeah, it's our brains essentially going, oh, thank God.
No, I get that. I get that too. But even beyond just that kind of prank, I've seen things that I would deem cruel. Laugh. I've seen things like there are things I would consider like okay. So as a fun joke, I know you know how I can tell someone loves me? They'll steal my food. Right? It sounds very again. It sounds to see the reaction there, right? But and that,
My croutons. Okay, my croutons. Oh. Okay, so the long story short on that.
Let me just visit this line of thinking a little bit. We can agree to disagree. I just want to just kind of go down this line a little bit, and I've learned that that is a very very like everybody's got their own lines, like whatever those lines are. I'm not by anything justifying what your friend did to. I would like to me personally, that's not something I would ever even dream of doing. That's fucked up. But I also know this too, that my definition of effed up may not be somebody else's definition of effed up as well. And like good example of this. Okay, I make the joke of the medieval martial art of tickle food. Some people will look at me and say this is borderline abusive. It's abusive. It's cruel. It's mean. Right. On the flip side, I grew up. I was tickled. It was just part of fun, and I gave back as what I got, and it was just a form of play for me, right? So I mean, I'm looking at this from two very different angles, right? So now, I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen, that I don't think I think it is possible to abuse someone with tickling. Yes, I do. I actually do believe that. That'll
To a certain degree, we're essentially talking about consent. You know,
yeah.
Everybody has a right to have different levels of what they will allow.
Yeah.
But assuming that your level is my level is completely irrational.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you like tickling. I will laugh so hard that I will stop breathing. It is not a pleasant situation.
No.
I pass out.
Yeah,
okay?
no, absolutely.
Don't tickle me.
No. But this is why I'm bringing this one up in particular.
Right.
This one up in particular, because some people, when I mentioned like, for me it's play. It's not malicious at all. I would rather tickle somebody to the ground than punch them, especially right, because it's a gentler way of neutralizing somebody. Right? It can be cruel. It can be, but I also can see this too. For some people, it's cruel because it's violating a space. It's also it can be all those things as well.
Right.
So now for me as a concept, it's just play, not right as a concept. However, I can see like for some people, like I've mentioned this, it's a cruelty as well, right? So there's a how do I put this? Since we are talking, I think from the point of view of consent, with humor, with all of these things, everybody's got their own level to it, right. And I think everybody. This is I think going back to something you say, you're generous at first. Okay, we'll see where the lines and boundaries are, right? We'll just see what. Yeah, we have to feel each other out for that.
That's the whole point of developing a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a business relationship or a romantic relationship, whatever. It's all about learning those lines for the other person.
Yeah,
because it's finding where you agree on those lines is great because then you have things in common, and finding where you don't agree is also great because then, if your line is different from my line, I can respect your line and you can respect my line, and that creates a mutual respect. It's all about developing relationships.
Yep. Absolutely. And trust. Like ultimately it's about trust. It's about trust. And
because if you buy me Coke for my birthday, I'm not going to trust you no more.
No, I wouldn't do that. Like that's why, and this is why this is why the April 1st rabbit hole I accidentally opened up. There's like, right? but this is ultimately where this goes. Like, I kind of feel like ultimately where we can, like, everybody's boundaries and lines are different.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I think that has to be stated. So I can't necessarily, and this is something especially with relationships, I've learned this too. I can't look at a relationship as healthy or unhealthy anymore because everybody plays by their own rules. So I look at, all right. The only thing I can do is when I notice that boundaries are being crossed, that's when I can make a snap decision. Until then,
well, I mean,
yeah, right.
Essentially, healthy and unhealthy can't be defined by specific actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's defined by whether or not those actions are a violation of one person or another. Mm-hmm. That's where the healthy and unhealthy come in. And a lot of people are like, well, if a person never does this, okay, you know what? Until you've actually been involved in that with that specific person, you can't say that is necessarily a deal breaker, because the context does matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter to me because I'm not involved. It matters to the people involved. And that needs to be respected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's ultimately it. I mean, that's what we ultimately are coming to. And our interpretation of what is or isn't really doesn't matter.
Well, right? What's that line? Some people's kink is a feather and some people's is a whole chicken.
It's true.
I'm just saying I'm not into the whole chicken unless it's fried.
But most people aren't. But the truth of the matter is, there are people that are somewhere over the rainbow, and really, God bless them, because God only knows, right? Right. And that's it. That like at this point in my life, I am too old. I'm too old for two things. I'm too old for cynicism. I have no idea what the real world is, so I refuse to be cynical. And number two, I'm too old to judge people. So now I do know we do come from very different belief circles, but I think you may agree with at least the concept of this. God's love, the whole idea of God's love, what God's love actually is. And I realize probably one of the most valuable things in the world is that there are people that don't believe in God. And the reason why I say that is because it's living proof that there is one. Because if God is really love, if God is love, if as they say, then the hardest thing about love is not when you're going along a path you agree with. It's going along a path you don't. Do you trust that person enough? Do you love that person enough to let them walk wherever they feel they're going to go and love them anyway?
Mm-hmm. To me, that's actually backwards.
Okay.
It's not about God or gods or whatever you choose to believe in. It's about the fact that we're all humans. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that makes us really awesome as a species is us working together. Mm-hmm. And us feeling compassion. We take care of the sick and the old. That it's not unheard of in the animal kingdom, but it is not as much as we do. And that is what has made us the top of the food chain, however you want to say it. That's what has put us at the top, is our ability to take care of those who can't take care of themselves, to have compassion for those that we don't even know. That is the thing that we should be worshiping. That is whatever name you want to give it. You call it God, you call it, Bob the Builder, you call it the Great Flying Spaghetti Monster. I don't care what.
I do that.
His noodly goodness, okay? But whatever you want to call it, that is what we should be focusing on, is our ability. And I wouldn't even go so far as to say love, because I think that is a very loaded word in English. It's too weighty. Yeah. It's too much, compassion. Compassion is a little more, laid back. It's not so energetic. It's not so in your face. You know what I mean? Yes, I think about how these words feel. Okay, you just like I don't ever want to be. I don't want to be happy. I want to be comfortable, because happy is too energetic. Comfortable is good.
And there, I actually disagree with you. I'm terrified of comfort. Too much comfort. There's a very fine line there. I don't want it. I want to be.
What if you become comfortable with change?
You never become comfortable with change. That's the best thing, because no matter how you look, no matter how you, I'm comfortable with it in ways other people aren't. I can go literally anywhere. Like literally for me. Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna answer your question though. So what would be the most uncomfortable thing for me to do going forward? Finding a place to settle in and making the best of it, because that would truly be a different uncomfortable experience for me. So,
but that's the thing. Like, with words like that, we kind of get to decide what being comfortable means. Like for you, being comfortable means, having a certain level of constant discomfort, constant change, constant, whatever you want to call it. But those are semantics.
Yeah.
But the point is, I don't want to be happy. I want to be comfortable in my life. I want to be, satisfied with where I'm at, satisfied with where I'm going, and reliably satisfied with my ability to get from here to there.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I don't want to be overjoyed, okay? I am too old and tired to be freaking overjoyed.
Wow.
There's a couple of times a year when I can pull out overjoyed, but no, not all the time. I don't want to be overjoyed. So,
yeah, I chase the roller coaster, because the roller coaster is actually the healthiest way to be. You don't want to be always happy. You don't want the world to just end in doom and gloom. You don't want any of that stuff. You want that bump. You want to be able to enjoy the whole process.
You want the varieties.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is like 60 to 70% of the time.
Yeah.
60 to 70% of the time, I do not want the extra drama. I don't care if it's positive or negative. I just don't want the extra drama. My blood pressure is not going to take it.
See, for you, it's about the weight you're carrying. You already have enough things on your plate. Now, if one of those things should happen to go poof, you might be able to handle overjoy. I could see you maybe when you get to your 60s and 70s, you might be doing cartwheels and backflips at the bar process. Right? Who knows? I'm crazy.
The last time I tried to do a somersault, I landed on my head and jammed my back. Okay, I do not have a dexterity roll.
Okay, fair enough. That might be.
I'm not good. No, don't make me move the body in weird ways. It's just gonna break.
Okay. There. I'm just gonna go there. No, like I said, the little things, like all these little things we're talking about here, right? Again, as she points out, I actually like a little disagreement on my podcast, a little bit, right? But because it creates different perspectives, and because I can learn all kinds of wonderful, fun stuff, and because as you are well aware, I know everything or something to that effect, right? And you appreciate how you appreciate how self-deprecating I am to my ego every time I do say something like that.
I strongly suspect that you are very familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where when you start to learn enough, then you know how much you don't know, and you feel like you know less than you did.
What it's so the whole secret of my career is I haven't known what I'm doing. I just do things and things happen. And I realize, and it sounds like incredibly simplistic, but I mean,
no, it's like, I want this result. How do I get there? I don't know. Let's Google some things.
Well,
that is
but sometimes when we do that, I accidentally wrote and published a book. Like, and right, I mean, this is one of these things. Like, I accidentally wrote and published a book. I accidentally started a podcast, right? Right. I mean, no, see, I was just smart enough to recognize when my cookies had chocolate chips in them, and just went with and rolled with it, right? Because that's just me. No, I am familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect. And teenage me definitely was filled with Dunning-Kruger bullshit. Definitely. I was smart and I knew it. So, but I again, I've gotten a little older. Life's kicked my ass a little bit, and sometimes it was right. Sometimes it was like, why did you do it this way? But I mean, we all have those questions on that one. But sometimes you're like, I'm a big enough man to admit this. Sometimes, nope. You know what? It was right. I was an idiot here. I was totally an idiot here. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, right? I learned that life never stops. Like, and that's why I say I'll never get used to change, because I know for a fact there's just so much I can do and become and see. I'll never ever get used to it. The truth of the matter is with me is I would rather be wise, and also be just the nature of me doing a show like this. Okay, this is my 543rd episode. Think about, right? I've had a lot of people come on this show. You're all smart. You're all capable. You all look at the world in a very different way than I do. You have forced me to re-examine my perspective of what I feel is right in the world, good, bad, or indifferent. Once upon a time, I would have been someone you probably would have loathed a long time ago when this all started, right? Who I've become has been the result of me being just exposed to many different things and learning and discovering and recognizing that I have a long way to go. And no matter how far in the journey I get, I will always have a long way to go. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing. That means that no matter how long I'm here, no matter what I do, there's always something new to discover. Yep. And I love discovering, and I love that discovery. So
yeah, there is something satisfying in knowing that even if I became a vampire, the chances of me actually getting bored with life are actually pretty low, because I love books, I love movies, I'm not gonna lie, I love TikTok and YouTube because people get super clever. Yeah, a lot of it can be really dumb, but there's these little pockets of cleverness, and I love that. And next, in the next couple of years, there's going to be something else that, you have these little pockets of clever, and I can't wait to see what happens. Well, I just love that.
But that's just it. Like, you can dismiss what's going on in the world. Like, big scheme of things, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, we got the real problem in the world. It's been the same voices forever, and that needs to change. Because if you look around and you see what people are coming up with and doing and imagining and growing, I mean, it's really a magical place. And honestly, I'd rather live in that kind of world than anything else, any other. And it's like, okay, and so I've learned I can just be the pretty one in a conversation. I don't actually need to be the smart one.
We'll let you have that one.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, but William, I interviewed William K. Holland, and he's such a talented dude. I just said, listen, I'm the pretty one, okay? Is that okay? It's like, okay, you can be the pretty one. You're just super talented, sweetheart of a good guy, great writer, great, he's just great. And it's
is he one of those people that you meet and you're just like, I don't know much about him, but I want to be his friend?
I'm not with almost everybody that comes on the show. Actually, it's ironic. No,
you're secretly gregarious.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just, okay. So there's you, right? There's you, accomplished writer. She's an affiliate on YouTube. She's slowly but surely taking over the universe little by little. She's got her own agenda. She's seeing it through. She's a problem solver, possibly brilliant, really sweet and sensitive for all her tough exterior, right? And I mean, her carbonation thing is interesting. I mean, there are things and there are things we definitely disagree about. But that sounds like a wonderful, unique, cool human being. And I've been very fortunate with my guest list. I've had nothing but wonderful, unique, talented people that just do incredible things, right? It's not that when you see how accomplished people can really be if they just look at themselves, you can't help but admire them. And I'm in this unique position where I get to talk. I had no clue what we were talking about when we started, right? And look at the conversation we've had in almost 2 hours, right?
Who needs a topic? We'll just talk.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
I'm pretty sure we've talked about pretty much every major philosophical concept. Like
not all of them, but enough of them for one episode for sure.
Yeah,
right. But I mean, but do you see my point of view? It's like it's easy to become a fan of somebody just having a real conversation, and there are things we'll never agree with, and you know what? Fantastic, right? And right, fantastic.
You can take your Coke and sit over there.
Yeah, that's right. But I will. Okay, right. But at the same token, right? That's a cool thing. I mean, I think one of the best things about this show for me is, since we're talking about the Dunning-Kruger concept, is the world's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I probably more than most people realize that just by doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I love the fact that people have different opinions and different things, because, I mean, you know, it's like, okay, so I don't like onions. I don't, unless they're caramelized as part of a recipe, I don't like onions. But you know what? That means somebody over there, more onions for them. Somebody doesn't like pickles. Guess what? More pickles for me. It would suck if we all like the same foods and just like the same foods. Then we would have like this huge imbalance of foods. I like pineapple on pizza, but not as much as my children do. So guess what? We get pineapple on pizza, and the children eat pineapple on pizza. And people online say pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. And I'm like, then you come feed my kids.
You just look like, and they're like hands up, like, oh no, no, I get
that. The things that people do end up fighting about, I think, tend to be really weird.
Yes.
Like, why are we arguing about that? Like, does it actually matter to you if I eat pineapple on pizza? Like, if I didn't say it, would you even know? Like, what does it matter?
So, without skimming too much into the realm of politics too much, I think the weirdest thing to me about why people fight in that more than anything else, none of those people know my name. None of these people care whether I go to bed or where I wake up the next day. And I don't mean that, right? Like they don't. So why are we fighting over them? They don't care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes zero sense to me. If I have a conservative bent on fiscal policy, who cares? If I have a libertarian point of view on human rights,
the thing is, we need all of those perspectives.
Sure, we need it. We do.
We don't necessarily have to enact all of those perspectives, but we do need all of those perspectives. I tend to be extremely liberal about things, but at the same time, I acknowledge that a fiscal oh my gosh, how many K's are in there? None, by the way. A fiscal conservative is necessary to put the brakes on the sometimes ridiculous things that I just start going off on. I get that. It's necessary to have all perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I don't understand why people fight about it, in the sense that, like, now there are some hard no's. Like, yeah, okay. I'm just going to say it now. If you are dealing with multiple adults, if you're dealing with adults who are consensual in the bedroom and you're applying laws to that, then you need to get the fuck off. Because holy shit, unless you peeking in my window, it ain't none of your goddamn business. And also, why are you peeking in my window? Dude, just wrong.
Yeah.
You know, the whole defining of what a relationship is blows my mind. Like, who the fuck cares? You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. Why do you care?
I live in. I live in Canada. This was all kind of like wrapped up in a nice little bow about 10 years ago. So we don't care. It's like whatever.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that should be the perspective. And also, okay, so, you know, going into a little more of my liberal stuff, if somebody wants to be a prostitute, tax the fuck out of it. You know, set regulations for safety and health or whatever, you know, you want to do. Make sure they're not being abused, whatever. But why are you telling people what they can do with their bodies and for how many cookies?
So no. But honestly, to answer all of those questions is another podcast. And again, ultimately, something I said at the very, very beginning: same people, same policies, same decades, same voice. Long time.
You know, it's so interesting because if you look at the history of a lot of these policies, what we think is like a moral choice on behalf of our government really wasn't a moral choice.
No. That's not where that came from. Actually, that's the thing, right? If you look at history, like we're going to be making some big decisions going forward on some things in the next little bit, right? I really hope if people like, okay, the COVID immune passport thing people are talking about, I really hope people think in terms of what will that do to abortion years down the road, depending on what decisions it's made, because there is a correlation there, right? I hope people understand, right? Like what that, like every other decision in history, it has nothing to do with what's morally right, because this is about giving power going forward into something else in the long term. No one thinks in the long term. People just want to feel safe. And that is the most dangerous reason to give power to people that you can look in the last year. And I don't care what country in North America you look at, have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are incapable of wielding it. So that's
completely legit.
Yes, right. And that's my perspective. Unfortunately, I might be in the minority here because no one's thinking like that right now. They will in a few years' time, but that's another conversation.
And at the very least, that's something that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
See, I've had a few situations where people have acted like I was some sort of naysayer or instigator or troublemaker because, you know, I'm sitting here going, look, it's not that I agree with this, but we need to consider this perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm sitting here going, this is the question that we need to ask ourselves before we make this decision. I don't care what your answer is. I'm just concerned that you haven't asked the question.
Have you thought it through? Yeah. Have you thought it through?
Right.
Have you really thought it through? Yeah.
Like,
right.
You know, if you decide that you know XYZ is not the way to go, fine. You know what? That is your choice. Just like I get a choice. But if you're not considering this aspect and this aspect, are you really making a good choice? Mm-hmm. And that's what I get concerned about.
Yes. And that's it. And again, historically speaking, we look at history very often. Well,
historically speaking, the majority of people want a simple thing.
Yeah, no, they do. You know, but they don't. But they never consider the long term ever.
Yeah.
And this one's important for the simple reason because ultimately the debate there is really simple. Does the state get the right to tell you what to put in your body? Right. And that is. I mean, we can sugarcoat this any other way we want to. Right. That's the debate. And is it right? Maybe right now, maybe not. But what about 5 years down the road? What about 10 years down the road? Right? And that's kind of like, and everybody everybody's going to have their own opinion about that. But as someone that has watched things like the war on drugs and how that has created some wonderful situations, I've seen a history of power being abused.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going for something, I cannot beat this over the head hard enough. It's the same people. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Well, and okay, so I'm very much pro-vaccination. Like, there's no reason that we need to suffer through illnesses like that. But I'm actually against one vaccination. One vaccination I'm against, and that is chickenpox. Go ahead, ask me why.
Because I already know the answer to this. It's not really necessary anymore.
Well, that's part of it. But the big part is, okay, so chickenpox, when you get it as a kid, tends to be pretty mild. That's not 100% guarantee, and that is why they push the vaccine, is because it can get bad. But chickenpox as an adult is almost always bad. The chickenpox vaccine requires booster shots when you're a teenager, just about the time that you're going into college. Name me one teenager who thinks about booster shots when they're going into college.
None.
Exactly. Then you combine that with the U.S. lack of, universal health care, et cetera, you have a huge number of people who are going to be falling through the cracks. That's problematic.
So,
if they could fill in those gaps, I would.
I'm very hesitant usually to talk about this because once upon a time I was an anti-vaxxer. I can tell you why. I once upon a time, I can tell you what parts of it I think are actually very valid. And I can also tell you what I think when you look at, say, the United States, the one thing that's absolutely true is you are the most vaccinated country in the world, but you're also one of the sickest. And it is, and the excuse of it's the vaccine's fault is not something I subscribe to. This is just what it is, though, is your system has some fundamental holes. And mostly they involve your insurance companies.
Yes.
And that is a huge problem. And unfortunately, so my take is I think a vaccination program should be like Japan's. Because Japan doesn't require a mandatory vaccination program. What they do is it's strictly a doctor-patient confidentiality deal. They have the most complete vaccination list. Some the state pays for, some they don't. But basically, it's up to the doctor and the patient how they treat them.
You mean the way healthcare should be?
Yeah, because in 1994, the MMR vaccine created mass side effects in a lot of their children, and that's when they decided to implement this system. It works. It's better than any other system on the planet, right? Unfortunately, but if I make this conversation about that, right, that's fine, because I'm not knocking vaccines as a medicine here. It's a medicine like anything else, but it is a medicine like anything else, and should be treated like a medicine like everything else. And that's where I sit on that, in that it's a treatment that people should have access to. At the same time, however, it shouldn't be the only treatment either, because that is when things get bad, right? So that's my
and the thing is, it's even more complex than that, because
absolutely.
The reason that the U.S. has mandatory vaccines, it's actually not technically mandatory. It's just that you can't utilize the public school systems unless they're vaccinated.
Yeah.
And that's a state by state thing. It's not even a federal thing. It's state by state. Most states do that. But the problem is, what they're doing is they're saying that if you can get the vaccine, you have to get the vaccine so that we have the herd immunity in public schools, so that we don't have to do anything special for people who may not be able to get the vaccine, which means that it's actually a flaw, not only on the healthcare side, but also on the school side.
Well, no,
Like,
but also, and it goes even worse. Apply that on a business level, like bigger business, you have access, no access. It now becomes a have not issue, which is hugely problematic. Number one. Number two,
mhm.
right? Number two, I mentioned abortions. Now, the reason I mentioned that is for a lot of reasons people don't take vaccines is very similar to why people don't get abortions. My body, my temple. Some of the leaders you had down there, it would not be, all it would take is the right one to get in, and now the child has life. Now, once you agree to get the state that can put whatever they want into your body, what if they process the child as the right to life? Like, this is a Pandora's box, right? That
Well,
would
yeah. I mean, the thing is, that's the slippery slope argument,
yeah,
and I mean, I have problems with that argument as a general concept
yeah.
because like people generally have lines. It's not really a slippery slope. Everybody has a line.
Oh yeah, sure.
What I do see is the boiled frog issue,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
people incrementally expand things until you just all of a sudden realize that, wow, this went further than I actually intended. But
Mm-hmm.
so I do see that, but a lot of that comes down to money in
Mm-hmm.
politics, which I think most people agree is generally a bad idea, unless of course you're the one with the money buying the politics. Then you might not agree. And by the way, screw you if that's who you are. So there you go. Um, and religion and politics,
Mm-hmm.
which
That's good
I
part
am
too.
I am fine. I don't give a shit what people's religion is. I really don't care. Your belief system is your belief system. What I do care about is when you take your belief system and decide to rule my life with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a hell no. I hate that. And for all of the US's whole thing about being the most free country in the world, we did not do that well.
No,
And that's really harmful, I
no,
think.
no, no, no. I agree. No, I agree. Like these are things. Like I'm looking at the people again. I'm looking at the people in charge. I'm looking at what they're doing. I look at how they
Mhm.
do it. What it comes down to it for me is very simple. I just don't have faith in them, and I
Yeah.
shouldn't. And I shouldn't. And
Yeah.
that's my decision. And I
Well,
think,
and see, okay, so I'm just going to say it. I think that the vaccination passport is a good idea. I do not think it should be federally mandated.
mm-hmm.
If a individual business wants to say that you have to prove
Hey,
that you have a vaccine before you use whatever service, whether it's going to a basketball game or taking an international flight, that's fine, because you're always going to have those businesses who are willing to take the risk for the money.
mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't care. Whatever. I don't think it should be federally mandated. I would like to see some effort between all of the countries of the world to maybe have a consistent system that is optional. But I think that might be also too much to hope for. So,
You're not.
you know,
You're not.
like that would be the pipe dream.
But again, I tend to look at it more. I tend to look at it more like from this point of view. Um, that's a line. That's a line that once crossed. I'm not entirely sure where it goes, and I don't think I'm against the passport just for that basic reason. It's such a headache
Yeah.
on so many levels that I feel like, frankly, the leadership, and this is, hey,
Well,
hey.
I mean, the big thing though is there are countries that do require proof of certain vaccines before you
Oh,
travel to them.
absolutely. No, no, no.
So
But no.
it's
Yeah,
we can it's whether or not we make it like this big official controlling thing
so
that
where I think where I think it's gonna go. This is just me. This is gonna become a travel thing. This is gonna. I think because I think on the travel end of things, there is you can make a very strong argument at least for the next 5 years about this one in particular, right?
yeah.
You can make an incredibly strong argument for it, right? Where I get very antsy, is if you go past that. because
Yeah.
once you go past that, it becomes very much a have not issue. It really
Yeah.
really does.
Well, right now we have free vaccines. How long is that going to last? How long is that going to stay free? In the United States, where dollar is king.
Yeah, exactly. I mean and that's just that's your country. No, and actually, and some countries are actually Jag Trust. Some countries actually have better ideas than we do. Like some of them
Oh,
have significantly better. The problem, Jag, is that right. The United States, and particularly the pharmaceutical industries, have a significant say on how the world does its policies. That's the issue, and that's the real problem. And it was something I mentioned earlier. Like the real, I wish we did adopt Japan's concept worldwide. It would make the world a much better place, but we don't. Right? So, so like I said, so we were talking about the vaccine passport, the pros and cons. I'm against it for the simple reason that, frankly, I we're talking about it from a slippery slope line, and where we both seem to have a consensus is right. There's a lot of people that would be left out. It would be discriminatory. It would be very much a terrible, terrible divide that by and large I don't think is necessary. And in a country like the United States, where the dollar is especially king, over time that is going to cost money. My argument is really simple though. Once you give that power away, you are never going to get it back. So this is where and this can tie into a bunch of other things as well. Because once you agree that the body is now the government can dictate what goes in your body, it opens other doors as well. So that's my perspective. Her perspective is, and again, from a health perspective, I mean, but maybe we all should be doing some at very least some kind of treatment for it, which I don't think anyone disagrees with, right? Which I don't think anyone disagrees with. Where I do think the vaccine is going to be, it's not just the U.S. It's any government. Like any government, I don't know any government should have this power. To be perfectly honest, Jay, I really, really don't. I don't think our government has been just as bad, in some ways worse than even the states in some ways. We certainly should not trust anybody with that kind of power. However, this is where it's probably, this is part of the argument probably is that it's strongest. Traveling. Lots of countries require certain vaccination shots to travel between countries. It's the way it is. It's not again, you want to come into our country, we're going to require certain shots. Has been standard operation procedure forever.
Decades. Right? Yeah, decades and decades.
Yes, it's been that way forever. So I think the argument from a travel perspective is probably very spot on, right? Just the way it is, right? It's just the way it's going to be. Where it gets dicey is where me and her will, I think, agree though. Beyond that, it gets dicey. It gets really, really dicey, and it's not something. I don't really think we should leap into that so quick. I think right. So that's just me. That's my perspective. I think the more you think about it, the worse this idea becomes. But that's me.
Well, and the thing is, I think the big part that I'm getting hung up on is people keep throwing around the vaccine passport phrase, but I haven't heard anybody talking about any actual policies that are being presented.
Yeah.
To find that. Like, what does that mean? We're doing a lot of theories. We're doing a lot of speculation. I haven't seen anything that says anything other than people are considering something along a vaccine passport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's no definitions associated with that. That has no meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it has some meaning, but very little meaning. So it's like, I think a big problem is there are Fox News, people who are getting really, really up in arms about a concept that has not been defined or is anything other than a speculation stage at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, and that's fair, right? That's totally fair.
so I mean, on the one hand, yes, I do have my own opinions on it, and I'm glad that other people have opinions on it. On the other hand, I think that there may be some pushback against something that doesn't even actually exist yet, and like not even in like a really possibility kind of situation. Like there's no policies. There's no policies being presented. It's just a bunch of people talking about it at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, do we even know what we need to push back on? Do we even know what might be restricted? So, I mean, I understand the fears that you're coming from, and I agree that those are legitimate. Yeah. I'm just not sure that they're necessarily something that we would actually need to be worried about.
Well, but in all fairness, that is fair. But I think we live in a world, unfortunately, today, right? We have shown that, like, again, this argument. I think the one thing that you absolutely agreed with me completely on was simply the fact that my perception of what to do, giving people more power, especially these people, is not going to go very well, and right has generally been. I don't think there's really a sound argument against that right now. So I'm very leery of giving them anything else, and that's just right. Even in theory, I think at this moment, right? Because I don't have the.
Well, and it is legitimate to have your perspective and your position and even your arguments getting. You're organized. That's what you're organizing right now.
Absolutely, totally.
So I totally agree with that. I don't know, because like the thing is, outside of the World Health Organization and the UN, do we even have anything that would encompass the entire world on that level?
There are two organizations with that kind of pull, but they're not health related.
So yeah, I mean at that point, it's like cry for me, Argentina. I'm in the U.S. and I'm probably going to get screwed on this. So
yeah. No, I get that. No, we'll walk away from this point of view of this conversation, because really, as you so wonderfully point out, it's mostly theory right now, right?
Yeah.
But
it is something that people should be aware of.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've seen over the last year, really, really hardcore, is that people hear something about something and then talk about it for like 3 days, like really intensively, and then forget about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's like, well, okay, that's nice, but we're not talking about it at the right time when it would actually have meaning.
Yeah. Well, that's the other part of it is like, yeah, no, it's so true. But I mean, but the other part too, this is the other part I kind of look at is, it's so true for every industry, Jag. Here's the other thing too, right? If I'm going to, how do I put this? Deal with an issue, right? This is also the perfect time to divide everybody up, because here's the thing: if I'm fighting about, we are having a discussion, and relatively just a general, gentle discussion. We agree with some things, we disagree about other things. I'll still have a drink with you, even if it's not carbonated. I'll have a drink with you. It's totally cool, right?
Hey, Jack and Coke does not have that much carbonation. I'm just
okay. Good to know. Right, but the thing, but right, we're having it as a discussion now. We're actually having an eye-to-eye, face-to-face conversation in a situation where it's just text to page. Now I know. Sarah is amazing. I had a blast. She's author goddess on Twitch. We're gonna get to her Twitch here before we wrap up, because this is streamer week, and so. But the point is, right? We watched this with the mask. We've watched this with everything else, right? People given the opportunity, because there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, have a tendency to look for reasons to fight each other. Mm-hmm. Right, and they have this reason. They always have these reasons to fight and go forth, and because it's easier to do that than not just like that. Yeah.
and not to be too U.S. centric, but the U.S. has a really bad political system because, I mean, essentially we're a binary system. Our responses are yes or no. That's what we ended up with because of
Yep.
two parties. It's either this or that, yes or no, black or white. We can't have any nuanced discussions because there's no other parties to bring in the nuance.
It's even worse than that. So here's the thing. You are essentially two sides of the equation. You are right-wing centric or you're right-wing extreme, depending upon the lottery. Reagan did that to you guys. So
I'm see, the thing is, I am psychotically liberal according to the US, and apparently in the rest of the world I'm middle of the road, and I'm like,
no, Obama would be right wing.
See, I knew I was rational.
Obama would be right wing in Canada. Like he would legitimately be right wing. He wouldn't even be like center. He'd be right. But in the United States, your system, it's even worse, is because it's an echo of moderate and extremism going off and on over and over and over again. So what happens? And so it's
edging towards the extreme.
The extreme is winning because what we've done, and just something like this in one way is the worst thing that's happened, because see, we're having a fun discussion, right? We've talked about all kinds of wonderful things, and the fact is, also we used the C word for the day, everybody, is compromise. I've listened to you, you've listened to me. We've agreed on some things, we've disagreed on others. But there was already a nice little compromise at the very beginning that everybody here has an opinion that matters, right? And I've made fun of myself terribly. I've made fun of myself terribly about being smart and awesome and amazing and stuff the whole time through, which definitely makes it a little easier to do that.
Well, the great thing about compromise and people who are good at compromise is they also know when to bring in just enough self-deprecation to allow the other person to become comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And so we've been able to have a discussion. Now, you get people, and if people in the States, and this is actually worldwide, not just people in the States, worldwide, we always are having these conversations like this. We're always having these conversations like this. We would come to a consensus that probably neither side's completely happy with, but we'd live with it and go forward.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, that magical compromise doesn't exist anymore. But the best thing is, like, if you're a leader, you love that compromise doesn't exist. You want to know why? Because you can do what you want. You don't have to get any other shit. If we are busy fighting each other, we can't change the world.
Just to point out, if I was the leader, no, I wouldn't. Because I'd be like, oh, but there's people that might get hurt because of this. And then there's children.
But see, Sarah, this is why
I'm not a good politician.
You're not a good politician, right? You're not a good politician. I would be a better one. I don't know if I'd be a good one either. I mean, I'd be jumping out of planes for presidential meetings, but that's just me. I'm just nuts. But because I'm like, why did you make me the adult in this conversation? Like, why?
Right?
Yeah.
I've always joked that if I was ever president, they would dig up dirt on me, during the running, and I'd just be like, yeah, that was me. That was actually a really good time.
Yeah, and Jag, I just wrecked your brain a little bit. I don't like being I like having fun. If I have to be, I can do it. I don't wanna. I just don't wanna.
Right?
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? We have come to an age where very few people listen, because everybody's got a voice. That's the beautiful thing that's the greatest thing about the internet, is all of us have a voice. The worst thing about it, though, is very few of us know how to use it to listen. And because of that, it's also why, if you notice, if you ever go on my Facebook feed, you'll see very little COVID stuff. You see very little mask stuff. You see very little politics stuff, because no one listens. So why would I bother to even put anything that no one's going to listen to? So you're either going to be on one side or you're going to be on the other. You're going to be this, or you're going to be that. And the fact is, everybody's got their own concerns, and everybody's got their own ideas and fears and wants. And the best way to overcome all those things is to listen to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? That's the easiest. That is, and the moment we listen, we'll find the things we have in common. And once we find those things we have in common, we can work from those spots.
Yeah.
Right? You create divides, right? You create divides when people stop talking, when people stop.
Well,
and then I mean, that's
it. The thing is, when you have a system where people are either Democrat or Republican, or one side or the other, or whatever, not only do you have a problem with any kind of compromise or listening, because you don't want to be, if you're a Democrat, you don't want to be a Republican ever at all, anything like that. Oh my gosh. So you create this very, very solid us versus them. There's no gray areas when you do that. But what that means is, if you control the, Republicans, for example, you can say, okay, so if you're a Republican, you're going to believe this. And if you say it enough and you get enough people to believe it, then everybody's going to believe it, whether they actually believe it or not. You can literally manipulate people because they're too afraid of breaking parties.
Well,
and it's so psychotic.
It's worse. It's also, I mean, it's also just part of what, like, look, on some level, I mentioned, I've joked about, my shit stinking and all that stuff earlier, right? Earlier on, right? There comes a point with all of us, doesn't matter what it is actually. Sarah, the author goddess, has to buy into her hype as the author goddess. So this is Sarah, the author goddess, amazingly wonderful and awesome. Now, she's like, there's my imposter. Shut up, imposter. Right? But
you got to get the game face on.
Yeah. But here's the thing. You know this as well. There comes a point with everything you do. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are. The temptation is to buy everything, and on some level, you have to. When I've interviewed politicians, the one thing I've recognized when I've interviewed them is, game face is beyond game face. It's mentality, Jack. It's beyond just a game face. It's a mentality. When I interview a politician, I've done it a few times, right? Now, what I've realized very quickly into my interview with them is they believe it. And I realized, and when I realized that it's not, and I understood why. It's not because they actually, like, on some level, they don't. They still have that human nuance of this, and this. But this requires, you're trying to communicate an idea, sell a way of life, do a way of thing. You're trying to get people to buy into what you're trying to get them to do. You have to. You just have to. And so so what you commit to is so key to understand what you're committing to, because the fact of the matter is, I mean, this is all, and then, right, is the fact that there's gonna be parts of it that stink, and we gotta make those decisions on what they are. Now, you go all in. There's an extremism to it that has gotten really unhealthy, but the concept of why it is, I get it, I understand it. It's because they have to buy into what they're saying.
As a politician, you are selling an illusion. This illusion is what could be possible. This illusion, it could be, what is, whatever. But the thing is, if you're going to sell an illusion, which, let's be honest, is just a few letters off of being a lie, if you're going to sell that, the first person you have to convince is yourself. Otherwise, you cannot sell it authentically.
Yeah,
so, I totally believe that. They buy into it because they have to, or else they can't sell it.
Yeah. And that's something that needs to be understood, right? And I learned this after my second interview with a politician. It's like, okay, I get this. I still think you're full of shit here, but I get it. Like, it's not, and and that's what I've learned. It's something I realized, and because I've realized this, I'm slightly, and also I've had the fortune of interviewing a few people that worked for various governments now, so I understand, like, there's, in spite of everything I just said, some very good, wonderful human beings do work in those situations, and very often don't get the respect they deserve while they're
Yeah.
in there. And that's why I think a lot of them become very cynical, which is just, yeah.
I mean, the truth is the best leaders are the ones who don't want to.
Yeah.
Because if you want to lead, then you're going to buy yourself into the illusion that you're trying to sell to people in order to become the leader. So, you know, it's like this, it's this weird paradox that I don't think that we're ever going to be able to truly solve, because it's a paradox. It really is a paradox.
You can. There has to be a balance. It has to go both ways. But one thing I do hope, and I'm hoping things like this going forward, it goes with, is the fact that we talk to each other more, right? Because we find wonderful people. So we've talked for quite a long time, and I get the feeling we could go for much, much longer if we really wanted to. But we probably should be promoting something at some point.
We're promoting the awesomeness that is us.
I've been doing this the whole episode. I mean, I've made a complete and total ass of myself, and it's been fun, and I've enjoyed it. But in your case, you have a Twitch channel. And actually, I kind of want to bring this up here, too, because I've been trying to build my Twitch channel. I'm just about at affiliate. Like, I have the follower count. Now I just got to get the averages to go up a little bit more. So, how has Twitch helped you? I should ask that question.
Well, honestly, I kind of fell into a writing community on Twitch, and that has been absolutely awesome. We are currently doing a for NaNoWriMo in November. We did Game of Tomes, which is essentially like everybody chooses a house, and we do Survivor style writing where everybody submits their word counts using channel points. And whichever house had the least channel points, like a certain percentage of those people would die. They would fall to the undead. And then the rest would scatter and choose a different house. And we had these great video presentations for each elimination round. It was so awesome. You can go back and look at them. But now we're doing Camp Nano, which is the Tourney of Tales, which all of the houses have become, you know, we have regenerated our houses, and everybody has chosen a house, and now we are simply competing for the honor of our house. There's no eliminations or anything like that, but we still have this competition going. Like, people pop in and be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And we'll be like, "You must join House Apis. We are the bees, and we will never be defeated." Or, Melee's the house of the badgers, the house that you want, or, we have a lot of fun with it. And we're actually supposed to be having it's not an elimination round. It's a update stream here soon. But, we have this whole setup where there's like participants that we always know what stream we can go into to deposit our channel, our word counts and everything like that. And because of the way that's set up, we often do raids, which is a lovely Twitch feature where you can essentially you've spent your couple of hours streaming and you've gathered up your people and everything, and then it's time for you to end your stream, and instead of just cutting it off, you pick somebody that you like their stream for some reason, maybe they do similar things or whatever, and then you take them and you raid them. And what that means is you essentially take all of the people who are following you on your stream and you dump them in the other person's stream. Yeah. And that's really great because people will then turn around and dump their followers into your streams when they end their streams.
Absolutely, no, I can't wait to I can't wait till I do become an affiliate, because it's going to be how I end every night. I'm going to go to a stream follow. Yeah, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's lucky winner is going to be author goddess. She's going to be doing. She'll tell you your fortune. She'll write stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Don't give her coke. Don't give her coke. Don't just stay away from it. Just stay away from it. Right?
I like it occasionally, but I have to leave it sit out for a minute.
No, it's okay. So, but do you take chocolate? Are you bribable with chocolate?
I am very amenable to chocolate, but I'm lactose intolerant, so you know.
Okay, so bring a little.
I know life sucks for me.
Yeah, so bring a little chocolate. Add some vanilla, right?
Oh yeah.
I actually do agree with you, Jack. I really, really do. But Coke is a lot more common. Pepsi is right, but the
yeah.
point
so these Twitch streams, we've actually taken. There's a game called Writers.
I love her song so much. I can take it from me. Anyways, go on. Okay, continue.
You can keep your chocolate. It's fine. So we have these. You pick a game for what you're streaming, right? Like that's your game tag, is what game you're playing on Twitch. Well, there's a game called Writers. It was a really bad game and nobody played it, so we took it over. So we have this Writers game tag, but instead of playing the game Writers, we are writers.
Nice.
So that's hilarious. We did that, and we knew we were doing it too. So we're like Dr. Evil here. So
apparently,
and a whole bunch of us are associated with World Anvil, which is a world building platform. It does have a free, thing that you can do, but it's really great for like keeping track of characters and places and things like that. I highly recommend people check it out. There's a few other platforms that do similar things as well, but World Anvil has a really strong presence on Twitch, so that's kind of the group that we ended up falling into, and they are associated with us, or we're associated with them, however you want to say it. And then what else? Oh yeah, we're all crazy. But that's okay. We have people from, let's see, I do really, really early morning streams for the US. So a lot of the people who end up in my streams are, let's see, there's Japan, Malaysia, the Netherlands, Estonia, a couple of Germans. I think there's a French person. I know I've seen somebody from Greece, Austria, a couple from the UK, some Australians. I mean, just, worldwide. And it's hilarious because we all have these, like, we're all writers, and we all have the same rule. You do not get to criticize somebody for their English, because we have so many people who are non-native English speakers. The English is like their second, third, fourth language. And in the words of what's her name from Modern Family, you have no idea how smart they are in Spanish.
That's right. No, it's true.
So yeah, you're not allowed to criticize. Also, it's chat, so don't criticize people's grammar in freaking chat. Come on.
No, I just criticize caps. I hate caps. It's like, it's like so loud. But I mean,
yeah.
I love that comment. My God, this game is like the bastard child of negative speak, and it's like awesome. That's a heck of a description right there. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, like has it helped you? Like for you, like what's been the biggest benefit for you?
Well, okay, so when we did Game of Tones for NaNoWriMo, we had, I think it was about 90% of the participants actually finished their Nano. I mean, and that number is insane.
Yes,
if you've ever done NaNoWriMo, that number is insane. One person did Nano 5 times over. That's what their word count was the equivalent of a NaNoWriMo 5 times over. We had a teenager who finished Nano, and we had a tween who came in and did a half Nano. and finished it. And that was all because, like we would literally like extend streams so that people could get that last 1,000 words in. And, we'd have like the fireworks emotes and stuff when people succeeded. It was great. There was just a lot of interaction and support in doing that. So I did a little over a nano and a half with my word counts.
High five.
So yeah,
given
all the crazy stuff that was happening that month, that was actually I was not sure that I was even going to finish, and I ended up doing that well. So yes, it has helped. It is. We have literally spent entire streams like as a writer, the theory is that I'm either going to be writing or editing on my stream. And sometimes people come in and go, I just can't figure out this character. And that's what we do for the entire stream, is help figure out that character.
Okay.
We help each other with the problems that come up in writing, and we support each other in getting the writing done. I got 2 editing jobs from the people in the Nano from this Twitch group. So, making money. Yeah. But also, how else do you find an editor? I mean, come on, it's hard to find an editor. But because of a lot of us who do the streaming will put in you can redeem channel points for doing a critique. So people submit a drive or an article from World Anvil or some other format where, we go through, we read the article, we point out any, punctuation, grammar mistakes, et cetera, things like that, so they can clean it up. And then we also talk about, this is what works for this article. This, I think you need to expand on this for this article. I'd like to see more on this. You might want a reference link here, things like that. So people can improve their content. And you also get to know, this person is a good editor. This person is, they keep bringing up stuff that I don't care about in my editing. So, maybe not them, but it helps you get to know people and their style and their techniques. So, I kind of get to display myself as an editor by giving sample edits in stream.
Yes. So Sarah gets to make all kinds of evil edits, and as a result becomes a better person, and also advertises herself as she goes. Have you ever played a game? Have you ever played a game on your stream? And would you?
Yes. Okay. Right now, I'm actually taking a break from streaming, but on Tuesdays I play Words on Stream, which is essentially the anagram games. You have the whole series of letters, and you have to make words that are it's a lot of fun, and it's really high pressure. So we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
There's another game that I don't play on my stream, but I like to go to other streams and play it, which is called Gartic, which is essentially a Pictionary version.
Nice.
It's hilarious. It's fabulous. I love it. Those are my downtime streaming things. And then on Thursday, I do tarot streaming. So a lot of it is still going to be writing and editing, but I do a certain number of tarot readings during the stream just to throw in some fun. But those are the 2 streams that I do that are the longest. So, most of the time I'm only doing an hour or 2.
Yeah. And for me, this has just been an interview stream. I have tried Tales of Berseria. I'm gonna probably do that again at some point, but that's me. I've enjoyed the community on Twitch. I love, there's just some great communities, and there's just the gaming community. I mean, I wish the writing community would steal a little bit more from the gaming community when it comes to passion. Because I have never, gamers are so incredibly passionate. I think the biggest thing I've learned is from streaming, and as much as I have in the last few months, is this. Gamers and streamers are all about pursuing excellence. And I think that see that.
Well,
yeah.
I think a big problem is that writers kind of resigned themselves to working alone. And I mean, early gamers were kind of the same way. You sat in your basement and you played a game, and it wasn't connected to the internet because that wasn't a thing. So we're talking like old school gaming, right? Early PlayStation, first edition PlayStation. But then Twitch came around and writers discovered Twitch, and all of a sudden we figured out, and we're still kind of figuring it out, but we're figuring out how to make writing a community activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a huge thing, because most of the problem with writing is that it's so lonely. There's no feedback. But by having a community that you can like drop a couple of paragraphs in and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Yeah, that makes it better. It makes it easier. It makes it more satisfying. It gives you that feedback loop that, quite frankly, willpower alone can only sustain you for so long before you're just like, I can't do this anymore.
No, for me, it's willpower and ice cream. That is my superpower weapon of choice. Willpower and ice cream. It worked! But anyways.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so people can find you at twitch.tv/authorgoddess.
Yes, Author Goddess is Twitch, Twitter, and my website. So that's pretty much the best way to just Google it.
Okay, so I still feel like we're cutting this short, and we've gone for over 2.5 hours. I still feel like we're cutting this short. So I gotta say, honestly, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you. It was a pleasure. I actually enjoyed this conversation a lot. I think you did too, right?
Yes.
So, why don't you plug your books? Like, replug your channel, right? Start, but plug any of your recent releases, and then I'll wrap the show up.
Recent releases. Oh gosh, I don't remember what my recent. I haven't had. Okay, so I've been editing for 4 months, so I don't know. I haven't had many recent releases, but I do have a novel coming out in November. It is book 4 of the Runespell series. Just start with book 1, Too Weird. Apparently, people like it, so there you go. That's my selling point. I guess people like it.
Hey, listen. So here's how you do this, right? This is how you do this. Like, I guess people like it. You will too, and just like real, like I almost have that borderline, like.
Yeah, you will like it. There's a person who gets tortured a lot, and it's a little bit fantasy, it's a little bit real life, and it's a lot of just crap going down that doesn't need to go down, and somebody sitting there going, what the hell? So yeah, it's good. You can find me on. Well, most of my books are on my website, so that's not a biggie. Just go to my website, look at under books. It's under books. I make it easy that way. You can find me on Amazon. You can find me on a few other. I'm actually trying to move away from Amazon, but it's not going very quickly. So there you go. I'm still on Amazon. Got a ton of short stories if you just want to try it out. You can message me on any of my things, and I will give you the link for my newsletter sign up, and then you can get a free sample, and all this, that, and the other thing, and blah blah blah. And then I'll notify you like once a month that I still exist. That's the newsletter. Once a month they tell you I still exist.
Alrighty. On that note, so this was a wild conversation. We started from talking about how we're too old for shit until finally we talked about how to fix the world one little bit at a time there, and then we talked about video games, which just seems like a good way to wrap up. So I want to thank everybody that watched and listened during this whole time. This was a lot of fun to do and be a part of. I might actually have to break this episode into 2 parts because we went so long. But I also feel like, honestly, Sarah, you were great, and if you want to come back anytime you want, give me a shout. You're more than welcome. You're always invited. And to everybody else, well, that will do it for this episode. Just Josh. If you want to support this podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast. I am on twitch.tv/Joshing. Hit the follow button. YouTube channel is Joshua Pantelleresco. Hit the like and subscribe. for anyone who wants to listen to it, I'm everywhere. Just listen to me. I'm good at this. I swear to God, I am. And then beyond all that, this Saturday I'm going to be doing Minecraft with Miss Shigatsu for the first time ever. It's going to be kind of fun. It's to conclude streamer week. To the rest of you guys, stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. I'll see you guys Saturday. Thanks for coming, by the way, Jag.